Hey everybody, Tech Talk Tuesday, number 112. 112. Do I have any service over here? Hey Brian, Charlie Edmondson. That's so good to see your name on there again, buddy. Good job. Let's turn this down a little bit more towards Big Daddy. All right, I got you were so fast on Facebook. What happened? Graham, Chris, other people. Hi y'all, Derek, David. I wanted to say hi. Thank y'all for tuning in. If you got a quick second, I'm gonna show you. I have on my penguin socks today. Check this out. Everybody don't have penguin socks, but according to somebody, it matches some of this blue here, I think. So, but penguins are cool. Yeah, get it? Especially if they're in the ice. And my shirt, I gotta see if you can see it. I'm gonna try and turn it where you can. You might have to give me a thumbs up later, but it says something like, "What happened? You were so fast on Facebook." Anyway, y'all can let me know if you got to see it. Jackie, Bryce, hey, Judy and Daryl. Hey, Ken, that's cool. So you got a name like Ken, and when you come from South Georgia, you call him Ken. Yeah, Ken. All right, so let's take a quick walk around the little shop here. I'll show you around a little bit. I got my little roll-up door in, and I got my big bay lights in over here where the lift goes. Got a good little piece here. This is a Champion. I'll turn it around where you guys don't have to see me. Anyway, championautolift.com. These guys did us a great job. It's a nice lift. I've got enough room in here now where I can put two vehicles up here. I got room to put the El Camino on the top or the bottom, and I've got the lift all the way up. So, and this building, man, this building right here has 44 of these concrete I-beams. I guess they're called T-beams, but they're about 48 inches to center. And they go 40-something feet across all through here. So this building is really, really stout, and it's a double concrete block wall. And I got some of our trophies in here and some of them here. These are the ones that I have told you before. These are Indy and Englishtown, like only from the U.S. Nationals and only from the Summer Nationals at Englishtown. And then there's some other cool ones over here. But that's not what the talk was about today. But I'm going to give a shout out to somebody that won 29 of these trophies for us. And if you guys or any of you guys on there on the history of this, or my friends from way back or present, but Angel Sampe won the race in Charlotte this weekend, and she did a great job. Some good competition. And this is a cool toolbox. Back when me and her had the Winston deal, Snap-on made these collectible boxes, and I know there's other people that have collectible boxes, but look at this one. It's got the Star Racing logo on it. And this right here is cool too. Check this out. Looked like she had fire coming off the bottom of that thing. Anyway, that's a neat box. I'll probably keep that forever. That was when she was a youngin'. And then I got the collectible box over here, and I got some die-cast collectibles. Jackie and I have a memorabilia room where we have a lot of John Myers memorabilia and Angel, and it's pretty cool. And I, it's like, wow, is that a shrine to that girl? No. It's history of my company and my family. We did this for 30 years, and we won a bunch of races, and we had a great career, and we're very thankful. This right here was not just me, I promise you. This was, Jackie and I might have been, excuse me, the common denominator. Let me put some of this, I got to put some of this 5 weight, 0 weight, hold on. My pipes got dried out for a minute. 0 weight. Anyway, Jackie and I have we've lived our life chasing this dream, and we're very thankful we were able to live through it. And we didn't do it by ourselves. We just happened to be the common denominator to all the drivers. I think it was 12 different drivers over our career that was able to win these big races with us. And I got something to talk to you about instead of just showing off my trophy. So let's go there now. I'm going to flip back. Please don't let it, you know what, everybody's not a George Bryce fan, and I'm cool with that. I'm not everybody's fan either. I mean, I appreciate people that work hard and get things done and give credit to others and stuff like that. I'm good with that. But I didn't want it to look like it's just a show-off show for me here, because my downline group, my foundation group, is wide and long, and it's probably 100 people in that group that helped me up, held me up, showed me the way, helped me when I was wrong, showed me my mistakes, patted me on the back when we were successful, but also held their foot on my neck when I wasn't. Like my banker, like my family, like mostly Jackie, she was really good at praising me when I did good, and really good at correcting me when I wasn't. But I just wanted to say thank y'all for the people. You guys know who you are, and one day maybe I'll have a sit down and tell you guys about everyone that was involved. But the cool stuff I have today, I want to show you. I wrote down a couple notes. I want to tell you about incremental times at the drag strip and how we compare those. And then I wanted to tell you about the difference in pro stock car times and pro stock motorcycle times, and how that's a moving target that is constant, the difference. And I'm going to talk a minute about that. And it'll be very interesting for you people that haven't looked at it in this light. And these are not things that I'm the only one that knows. I'm just the only one that really has a space to share it with you right now, and the willingness to share, because I don't have a dog in that fight anymore. I got a little teeny weeny little bit interest in a dog, but I don't have, my team's not out there racing right now. The other thing is I wanted to talk about lifters, and I wanted to talk about Tdc Lift on our pistons and our camshafts. Wow, we got a car banging out there. Also, before we get into the tech talk stuff, I want to give a shout out to Corey Reed and Joey Gladstone and his team, Jim and Annie Whiteley, for their kid being in the hospital with some serious injuries and having the surgeries. Had compound fracture in his leg, best I understand, and broken shoulder. And it seems like it could have been a lot worse, but they were able. I heard he didn't have much road rash on him, which means he had really great safety equipment on. But man, when you get vehicles tangled up with humans, and you get motorcycles and people and walls and ground and all that stuff, it's easy to get somebody to get hurt. And I was thankful that it came out okay. I'm going to flip this down now. Wow, I don't know if y'all can hear that alarm going off. There it goes, it finally quit. All right, I'm gonna let this down to where we can all see this together. Oh, yeah, this is my little notes. Tech Talk number 112. This information comes from YouTube Certified Mechanic. I've been certified on YouTube, and I wanted to talk about Corey, and we're praying for him to heal fast and completely and well. I wanted to give a shout out to Angel. We started off together years and years ago. We won 3 championships and 29 races together. She celebrated her 44th win this weekend on the Vance and Hines Suzuki, and we're fans of her and her family and the Mission Chips. So just wanted to share that. All right, let's go to my sheet here. I'm going to try and put it into a way that you guys can see this, and I'm going to break it down to where it's hopefully entertaining to you. All right. Let's look at this little info for a minute. All right. Can everybody see this okay? This is Pro Stock Motorcycle Incremental Time Report, Indy 2016, session number 4. Session 1 was on Friday. Session 2 was on Saturday. Session 3 was on Saturday. Session 4 was on Sunday, midday. There was a session 5 after this run. But what was unique about this run, and it's pro stock car, I'm going to say that when you have top four, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 guys that go the same ET. Like this one was a 681, a 685, a 685, and a 686. These 3 guys, 685, 685, and 686, and 686, and 686, all of these are within 100. And Angel was 681. Now, in Pro Stock Car, you'll see this sheet, this incremental sheet, where it will have 4 or 5 guys that will have all different, there'll be 5 different people that share this top line. And this particular run, Angel was number 5 in the 60 foot. Okay, can y'all see that okay? She was number 5 in 60 foot. That was bike number 491. And you can see bike number 5 was number 1 in 60 foot. But Angel, 491, she was number 1 in the 60 to 330. She was number 1 in the 330 ET. She was number 1 330 to 660. She was number 1 in the 660 ET. Number 1 in the 660 mile an hour. Number 1 660 1,000 foot. Number 1 in 1,000 foot ET. Number 1 in 1,000 and 1320. Her last 8th mile, she was number 1. And the quarter mile, she was number 1. And the mile an hour, she was number 1. You see this happen. Matt Smith does it a lot. Every now and then Eddie Krawick does this a lot. But it takes a great performance to get the number 1 60 foot and the number 1 speed and the number 1 ET and then all the incrementals. Now, I don't have a Pro Stock Car incremental sheet here to share with you. But if you look at Corey's run here back in that day, he was able to run a 686, which was almost tied for a 2 or 3 or 4 right in here. His numbers were good. But look how his 686 ET was scattered. Number 7, number 7, number 6, number 5. Then he was number 6, and then he was number 4, and then he was number 5, and then he was number 6. Then he was down here. He started scrubbing the wheel, and he was able to fall down to number 8. And then his last 8th mile was number 8 of the session. And then his ET was number 6 of the session, and his mile an hour was only number 9 of the session. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but you can see how he scattered the top half of the field with some of his numbers. This is his rookie year, and Angel's way long career. But this was, when you drive the bike's fast and you drive it really good, you get almost always the top line. I want to shout out to my buddy Steve Johnson with his Monster Head powered Suzuki that he was running this weekend. He won the race in Reading, which we all saw with the same package, and he went to North Carolina and qualified on the pole. And he sent me a sheet that looks like this too. And his numbers are not, I mean, he can share them if he wants to, but it's not my job to share them. These numbers belong to me. This was my motorcycle, my team, and I can share these numbers. Steve might make his public, I don't know, but he did the same thing. He got number 1 60 foot, and he was able to get number 1 every block. And this, in my life, in my career, I've never seen Steve Johnson pull off number 1 60 foot and top speed all in one run. And he was, it gave him number 1 position for the race. And he did good first round, second round, third round. He forgot his target, and he went down the track, and the wind got him and blew him over in front of Joey Gladstone. And similar to what happened to Corey, which I don't know what happened to Corey. I'm just saying that from what I saw on TV, it looked similar. I feel really bad for them. Gladstone, man, he's a warrior, isn't he? He's out there driving his best he can in his lane, dodging people, dodging friends and foes. But it worked. I'm not laughing at any of them, y'all. I'm telling you, it's far from easy. I will never say that's an easy thing to do. It's one of the hardest vehicles to race because the motorcycle's trying to throw you off. It accelerates like a pro stock car. This number right here, this 60 foot to 330, this 177, we've done 175, 174 with our best ETs ever. And this is very similar to a pro stock car. And the reason the 60 foot is not as good as a pro stock car is because they have the pro stock motorcycle has the front wheel, and it starts the clocks with the front wheel, and it stops the clocks with the front wheel. Pro stock car has 40-something inch overhang. Pro Stock car starts the clocks with the front tire and stops the clock with the nose. So that 60 foot gets shortened up from here to here, and it, whatever this is, takes off 3 or 4 foot from the 60 foot time. So they, instead of they like have 0.9 60 foots versus the bikes have 1.0s. 1.0 60 foot times. All right, back to the incremental sheet. What we have done over this time is we do correction factors. I'm going to talk a minute about how we compare to the weather and how we compare to this sheet and an international correction factor, SAE, STD, and it helps us realize what we have as our potential. Now, if you were at the race testing, and we were there with number 491 testing this day, and there was no other person, we would not know how good this run is. It would be a 681 at 196.6 miles an hour. I'd be going, wow, that's really, really good. I wonder what Matt Smith would go. I wonder what Eddie would go. I wonder what the other person that had a fast bike back in 2016, whoever they were, whatever they had, they were running mid 680s, and we ran a 681. But if we were testing somewhere by ourselves, we really wouldn't know how that stacks up. So this sheet gives us a wonderful comparison of the rest of the field. So when we come over here and we look at Corey's, we're like, okay, well, his, not to pick out or call Corey out, that's just who this was, number 574, I think it was. Anyway, he was struggling down on this end. If you see the slant of his performance down here, okay, so the jetting was wrong, the timing was wrong, or he was steering the front tire hard, trying to keep the bike from moving left or right, and that just scrubs off. And I tell people all the time, think of it looking at it from the blimp view, going down the racetrack. The blimp can see you going straight, and if you leave in a front tire mark, skipping along here, from the blimp, you'd be able to see the front tire. Instead of rolling free with no drag, you can see it pushing sideways, and you would see black marks coming off the front tire. If you see black marks coming off the front tire from the blimp view, you're scrubbing performance. Now, another good correction is a Pro Stock car. When you go to the racetrack and there's 5 guys on this sheet, say the 5 or 6 top, they're all within 100. Let's say they went a 6.55. There was 3 or 4 guys tied with a 6.55. All right, and Steve Johnson, let's see what he went this weekend. He went a 7.7. So let's see, a 6.7. Turn this on, man. Oh, it's not working, huh? There you go. This is not my good calculator, 6.77, but I'm not going to blame it on the calculator because I could have prepared. Minus Pro Stock car 6.55 equals 22 hundredths. So if you have 22 hundredths, let's add it up. I hope I can do this right. 5 and 2 is 7, 5 and 2 is 7, and 6. So if there was a 22 hundredths difference between Pro Stock car and Pro Stock motorcycle, it would be 0.22. John Myers, the late great John Myers, and I, when we were racing together way back when, we were 0.32 behind the Pro Stock cars. So I went to the tech department and I said, hey, look, we were number 1 qualifier, and the fastest Pro Stock car was 32 hundredths quicker than us. I said, if somebody steps up there and changes this from like 0.30 and below, take them to the barn and look them over good, because something's fishy going on here. Nowadays, we're closer to 0.22. I believe, and I hate to keep scratching around here, I believe that if you go, let's see, 6.77, and you take 20 off of that, that's a 57, 6.57. That's pretty much where we were in Charlotte, about 0.2. Now, go back to, if you're interested in this, you want to look it over, what I would do is go back through some of the archives and look at what low for the Pro Stock car was for the weekend, and then kind of do a top 4 average, and then go to the bikes and do kind of a top 4 average, and they're really close to 22 now. 20, I'm sorry, 0.2 now. Back on this race at Indy right here, I don't know exactly what it was at Indy. I didn't check between the cars, but that's how my team would find out where we stood. The barometer for they say there's a correction factor. You say, Warren Johnson used to say all the time, man, that run corrected to a 6 point something at sea level. Well, that's good. That's good. But how did it compare to it? And you can also find out if you do that who was right and who was wrong. Like Steve, I hate to keep picking on him, but I've been contacting and staying involved in some of his numbers. And it's interesting to see that when he's off and he qualifies 7th, like he did at Reading, the guys that were closer to the Pro Stock cars showed that they had gotten all they could out of their machine, and Steve didn't, because he was 600 or 700ths behind number one qualifier in the bikes. So that therefore you can add back to the difference between the Pro Stock cars and Pro Stock bikes and see how far off he was. Now, if the Pro Stock cars go 660 and someone on a bike goes 670, I'm gonna say send off a flare. Somebody's doing something's fishy. So you can compare the fastest top 4 Pro Stock cars to the fastest guy or girl on the Pro Stock motorcycle and see. This number will change. It went from 32 when I started paying attention to it. It went to 22 my last year racing, and now I see it gets closer to 19 and 20. Now, difference between Pro Stock cars and Pro Stock bikes. And let me say this out loud, you guys. This is not because the Pro Stock motorcycles are better than they used to be. This isn't because the Pro Stock cars are worse than they used to be, but they are. Pro Stock cars got 1,000 or 1,500 RPM taken away from them on the rev limitations. They got shorter wheelie bars. They got no hood scoop. They got EFI instead of the carburation. They've lost almost 100 horsepower. They're doing a great job milking that 1,400 horsepower for all it's worth at only 10,500 RPM, where at one time they had closer to 1,500 horsepower and 12,000 RPM, and it has cost them some performance. So you can see exactly, if you go back and look at the records, you can see where the performance changed dramatically between the Pro Stock cars and the Pro Stock motorcycles. The gap closed up because of the rules change for the Pro Stock cars. Now, lifters. I've been getting so many phone calls and so many questions about what's going on with these lifters. The lifters that we use are some people use Chevrolet lifters or General Motors lifters in their Harley. And then there is a version of that lifter that is made better for a Harley because it has oil going to the top end, which the heads in the Chevrolet don't need as much oil up there. They need it in the bottom end where they can keep it on their rods and crankshafts and mains, whereas the Harley is roller bearing, so it's not as big of an issue for us. But we don't have, the Harleys, we don't have any coolant. We don't have any water cooled up there, so we have to have the oil to the top end. So this lifter has got to take oil in the side and convert it into pumping pressure up through the push rod and get it up to the top. Same as the Pro Stock car, same as the Copo, same as the CTSV and the Corvettes. We got to get this oil pumped out of this lifter galley and get it pumped up the push rod to the top end. That's the only way the oil gets to the rock arms and the valve springs, unless you got a spring oiler. Now, what I wanted to tell you about this thing that's confusing all these people is the push rods that have threaded adjustment. And an adjustable push rod means it's just like a regular push rod, but it has threads here. And it has the cup on this end, and it has the cup on this end, and it has threads. And you can make this push rod longer, you can make this push rod shorter, and it is made with different lengths so that we can get this piston in here that has travel. Let's say just for easy numbers, it has 200 travel. Some push rods have 100 travel. Some push rods have 150 travel. But that is how far this piston goes up and down in the body of this lifter. Now, when the oil comes in through the lifter galley and gets into here and pumps up this piston all the way to the top, we adjust this push rod to 0 lash when the piston's at the top, the lifter piston. And then we preload it to where we'll be in this range, in this travel range, okay? So if this has 32 threads per inch or 24 threads per inch or 18 threads per inch or whatever, then the instructions and the engine builders and the internet gurus are going to tell you 4.5 turns of the push rod, 2.5 turns, 18 flats, 22 flats. You and I have heard and seen so much stuff. It's a miracle these things run down the racetrack. So what I do is I get to where I can see this circlip that's in here that holds this piston in. I look at the circlip and I see this little piston under there, and I set my push rod. I put this on the heel of the cam to where the lobe is facing away from it, so that we are on the heel of the cam, TDC, both valves closed, and then I will set this to 0 lash and then screw it in there 1.5 turns and lock it down so that my lifter preload is somewhere between between 0 and 100. I don't like to fill it all the way up. I don't like to push the piston all the way down where there's no cushion of oil in here. I like to run it off the clip about 50 thou down. And the clip, I'm going to draw a real quick cutaway to show you what that looks like. The lifter body is here, and there's a groove machined in the lifter right here, and there's a wire circlip that goes here. It's a C shape. Squeeze it down, put it in there, and it springs out right here. And then the piston sits right, that clip right there keeps the piston from jumping out of the top of the lifter, because it has a spring under it. And the spring's pretty strong. So I adjust the push rod to 0 when the piston is against this clip. And then my threads, there are a lot of threads per inch, not much threads per inch. I will set this 1.5 turns down so that this is only a small part of the preload is used up here. And it's say 50 thou away from the clip. Also, what I would do if I was you before you built the engine, I'd take the push rod out. I'd take a tape measure and measure how long it is with it screwed all the way in, and then I'd screw it 1.5 turns longer and then measure how long it is. So you can see easy with a tape measure. You don't even need a micrometer or a caliper. Because if it's so many threads per inch, you can move it an inch, and that's how many threads it is for an inch. Like, if it's 24 threads per inch, that means it'd go an inch in 24 threads in 1 inch. How long is an inch? This long, it has 24 threads in it. Break that up. What does that give us? I don't know what that is, 240? Something like that, 24 thousandths per inch? No, 24 thousandths a turn? Something like that. Anyway, it's math we can do. I'm sorry I jumped around on that. Last thing I got to tell you about is before I run all the way out of time, I want to talk to you about Tdc Lift. All right, let's say you have an engine that you've built and it has a piston in it, and the valve pockets are in the piston like this. And you say, this pocket is this deep, and I have a 600 lift cam, and I want to put a 700 lift cam in it, and you say, well, I don't think it'll fit my pistons. I don't think my piston pockets are deep enough to go from 600 to 700. Let me tell you this. The piston is down in the bottom of this bore when this valve gets to full lift. This valve never gets near this piston until it's near TDC. So when you have a cam that has 600 lift, 500 lift, 400 lift, 600 lift, 700 lift, it never gets near the piston except when the piston is near the top, not when the valve is at full lift. It's not even close. What does that look like? Well, here's the big Pro Stock 160. That's a 2.8 intake valve. When you put this valve 1 inch off the seat, it's about that much. It's about 1 inch off the seat. And when this valve is 1 inch off the seat, this piston is down in the bottom. It's not near the top of the cylinder. So your Tdc lift is something you need to know. Your camshaft, published information, Tdc lift. Also, when you build your cylinder heads and the valves are in the head, you have to put the exhaust valve at Tdc Lift, and you have to put the intake valve at Tdc Lift, and make sure they don't hit each other. Because when you open both of these valves, the intake valve is open, and the exhaust valve is open. And when they're both open at the same time, like at Tdc overlap, they can hit each other, and that's called clipping clearance. If you want to know more about this stuff, and you have some questions and interest, you're going to have to private message me or text me or answer me on these, go to these, what's it called? PM, or just comment on this note right here on this Facebook. Tech Talk Tuesday at, this is number 112, and I also want to tell you this is the 112th week in a row, and I had some good stuff to tell you. I got kind of tongue-tied there, and I'm sorry for that. I'll do better. Shout out again to if Corey's in the hospital, Corey Reed, and if you are watching this, please share and pass on to Corey that I'm trying to get as many people to pull for him and pray for him as we can so he can heal up fast. And he's a great dude, and he's got a great bunch of guys on his team, and I'm thankful I got to work with him. Y'all have a great night. I look forward to seeing y'all next Tuesday. I have Buck loaded in the truck, and I am going to Memphis Dragway tomorrow night. Me and a couple friends are renting a racetrack, and I'm going to see if I can get a new personal best out of it. I believe that Buck, I got it. Personal best so far has been a 10:43, I think, at 129. I can almost bet the farm. I don't have a farm, but I can almost bet the farm that I'm going to go a lot better because I put 2 teeth on the rear sprocket. I fixed the seat. I didn't say it, but the seat was coming off every time I'd leave, and it made me change the way I was riding and not give it full throttle. I know it kind of sounds stupid, like an excuse. It's tuned up. I got a better tailpipe on it. I picked up a bunch of horsepower, and I picked up a bunch of RPM. So the seat's fixed. It's tuned up, and it's got a big sprocket on it, and it should rip through the gears. Instead of going through in top of 4th gear, I should go through in 5th gear. It's a 5-speed, 2003 CVO. And I will give you a report on that. But anyway, thank you all for watching. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for your passion. We're all brothers and sisters in the same passion. And we were made in God's image. And he loves all of us. And I'm thanking you. Have a great night.